a normal person essentially would say is kind of obvious. Why are we having COPs in states that produce lots of fossil fuels? And I guess there's several ways you can answer it. One is that the COPs rotate around world regions. So one year they'll have to be in Africa, one year they'll have to be in Latin America, etc. So already you sort of limit the pool from which you choose. The second thing is like, I mean, you mentioned Australia in the question as being an obvious country not to host a COP in because it exports fossil fuels. I mean, I'm sure there's many people that would argue that the Australian government is doing wonderful things on climate, building lots of renewables, etc. Maybe even framing Australia as a climate champion, and that sort of gets at the problem here is that everyone has different opinions. The parties in particular, the governments, the countries have very different opinions about who is doing well in climate action. While some of us in Europe might think that our countries are climate leaders because of their domestically cutting emissions, I'm sure there's a lot of developing countries that would say, well, actually, you're not providing enough climate finance, and perhaps you're exporting fossil fuels you produce, like somewhere like Norway, overseas. So what I'm trying to get at here really is that, like, in a process that relies on consensus between lots of different countries, it's not as obvious, I think, as it might appear to who are the people who are the countries that should definitely be allowed COPs and who definitely shouldn't be. It's not as obvious a question. And finally, I would say when you think about the countries that actually want to host COPs, I mean, it's a big endeavor. It's a big expense. It's a big hassle. It brings a lot of scrutiny to your country. A lot of countries just aren't interested in hosting COPs. Often the ones that are the ones that perhaps want to improve their PR on the world stage. There's all sorts of reasons why a country would want to hold a COP, but often it means that the ones that are kind of perhaps the most obvious climate leaders just don't even put their names forward, I think. So yeah, there's lots of ways you can look at it, but I guess the ultimate answer is it's not as easy a distinction of who are the climate champions and who are the climate laggards, even if it might seem that way to you or I.